Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Miriam and I talk about all kinds of sewing and quilting related things here on YouTube. Today marks the first day or the first video in my Quilting Basics series. I have been working on this series for a couple of months really. I've been asking you guys here on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook, what are some of the things that you would like to personally learn about quilting? Or if you are a more seasoned quilter, what's something that you wish you would have learned sooner? I thought this would be a really fun series to do. I'm starting it now, right before National Quilting Month. So March is National Quilting Month here in the US. So we'll be going all through the month. We'll be going over different topics each week. I might be doing 2 videos a week during March. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see if I can do it or not. But because making these videos does take quite a bit of time. And throughout the series, I'm actually going to be making a quilt. And as we're going through the process of making the quilt, I am going to be teaching all of my tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. If you didn't know, before I was doing YouTube and blog writing, I was making custom quilts for people full-time, basically. So I have just a lot of knowledge just from doing. I was making so many different kinds of quilts and things and researching it constantly because that was my job. And now it's my job even more because now I write about it and I make videos about it. So I'm constantly learning new things. And that's the great thing about quilting. And well, with sewing in general, you are constantly learning. There's someone coming out with a new technique. There's new tools coming on the market. You are just constantly learning. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is my overarching motto for this series. And it actually comes from a Socrates quote, which I actually have written in my planner. I like to give myself a quote of the week, and this is my quote of the week, and I thought it fit perfectly with the series, so I'm just going to throw it in here. It's, smart people learn from everything and everyone. Average people from their experience, and stupid people already have all the answers. So I'm not calling anyone stupid, but I am saying that I do not know everything. And the tips and tricks that I give and the opinions that I give are not the only way to do something. I try to make that abundantly clear in all of my videos that there are so many different ways to figure out how to do stuff with quilting. There is not one way to do a lot of things. I feel very strongly about that, and I know there are other people in the quilting community that feel strongly in the opposite way. So I just wanted to put that out there that this series is not meant to be kind of, you know, this is the rule book, this is what you must do, and if you don't do it my way, you're doing it wrong. You'll probably never hear me say that about any kind of technique because I just don't believe that. You know, quilting really is an art form. It's not as serious as a lot of people have tried to make it in the past. And it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's a hobby for so many people. Not everyone wants to be, you know, perfect. They don't want to be creating these masterpiece quilts, you know, that took them 500 hours to piece by hand, and you know, they want it to be displayed at a museum. You know, not everyone is doing that. Most people are making quilts for loved ones, and you know, it's or for themselves. You know, it's just something to feel the love and coziness and just sweetness of someone spending their precious time on making something special for someone special to them. That is another theme you'll probably hear me talk about a lot throughout these videos. You know, we're not here to judge or to basically make a rule book for people. That's not what this is about. I'm just going to be sharing my experience and things that I've learned because I think it'll be fun. And especially for beginners, I know when I was learning, all about quilting. I wish there would have been someone out there talking about this sort of thing instead of just doing very straightforward tutorials and you do this and then you do this and then you do this. You know, it's important to me that that is stressed just as much as tutorials. So you'll be hearing a lot about that. If you're okay with that, then you can continue watching. All right. Yeah, and it's okay if you disagree with me. That's totally fine. You know, please be nice in the comments. Please don't be mean if you disagree. But yeah, it's totally okay to not have the same opinion as me. It's, you know, you have your own free will. You're allowed to have your own opinions. So, yes. So, yeah, that's just something that I feel very strongly about, especially in the quilting community. Also, I wanted to mention that I am a Missouri Star Quilt Company partner, which means that I have a special link for you guys that you can use to get 15% off your order applied directly at checkout. So if you use my link and you shop regularly on their website, and then you will get a 15% off discount applied to your cart when you check out. And that's just a really great way to help you save some money. And I also earn a small commission from those sales. It's no additional cost to you, but Missouri Star compensates me for that, for bringing them people to buy from them. So I would really appreciate it if you use the link. You don't have to, but I really appreciate everyone who has. It's been a huge blessing for me, for sure. So I just want to thank everyone that's been using the link. Thank you, Missouri Star Quilt Company, for giving me the opportunity to work with you guys. It's been such a pleasure so far, and I've just loved it. I had been a customer of theirs for years, so it was just really cool to actually be working with them now. So very excited about that. So I just wanted to mention that really quick. Also, I have a Facebook group. It's private, so we're not getting a bunch of random ads in there or anything like that, but it's free to join. Anybody can join. I'm approving everybody that tries to join. I just don't want random people posting ads and things in there, so that's why I have it privated. And it's been really fun so far. We're all sharing what we're working on and encouraging each other, and that's just been super fun. So I will include a link to the Facebook group. I'll include the Missouri Star Quilt Company discount link. And yeah, let's jump in to this first video of my Quilting Basics series. So I thought it'd be good for the first video to talk about, we're going to talk about thread, we're going to talk about needles, and we're going to talk a little bit about fabric. So let's start off with thread, because I get a lot of questions about thread. And, oh, what thread should I use for this part of the quilt making process? And what thread should I use for when I'm quilting? And what thread should I use for my binding? And things like that. So first, I will tell you what I personally use for all of my quilting. Through the entire process, I use one thread. And that thread is Coats & Clark's Machine Quilting Cotton Thread. This thread, here, let me grab it off of my machine real quick. It comes in I think it's a 1200 yard spool, like that. Just like that. And it is a 30 weight thread. Now, I know some people have commented that they don't think I should be using a 30 weight thread for piecing. You should be using a 40 weight. But for me personally, I like the 30 weight. It's a little thicker. It's very strong thread. I've never had issues with this thread breaking or getting all dusty. I know some threads can be very dusty as you're sewing. And I personally really love this thread. I will link this in the description box below if you want to check it out. It's significantly cheaper than other threads that quilters recommend. I will say I have used Aerofill as well. I've only used Aerofill for hand quilting, and this is their 12 weight hand quilting thread. And I loved that. It works really great, but this is quite expensive. My Coats & Clark Machine Quilting cotton thread is my go-to. And again, it's a 30 weight. If you're confused about the weight, what that means is the thickness of the thread. So the larger the number, the thinner the thread. So my 12 weight thread is thicker than my 30 weight. And a lot of people recommend for quilt block piecing to use a 40 weight thread. So it would be a little bit thinner than my 30 weight. But I personally enjoy my 30 weight. It doesn't bulk up my seams. I had someone comment that, well, doesn't that bulk up your seams? I haven't found that it does. I love this thread. Another reason why I like using my 30 weight is I also use it for quilting. So whether I am doing straight line quilting or free motion, this thread works great. Again, it does not break. It looks beautiful, and it's just a really great quality cotton thread. For quilt making, I like to recommend to use 100% cotton thread. I have used in the past polyester thread, you know, those ones that you get that's meant for a serger, that's like the huge cone. I used to buy that because I am very cheap. I'm very cheap. I'm very frugal. I never buy anything full price when it comes to sewing related things because everything goes on sale. And whether you shop at Joann's or you shop at Missouri Star Quilt Company or the Fat Quarter Shop, all of these companies have sales. Now, if you're shopping at a local quilt shop, it's a little bit harder to get those sales because, you know, they're working with more overhead and things like that. But if you're shopping at those larger companies, especially for notions and things, you can get a really good deal on those types of like thread, needles, tools, all that kind of stuff. So I was using that polyester thread. What I found with that was it broke often, it was very dusty, and it just didn't look super nice. Because you know, when thread is made, it's kind of twisted. You know, if you look very closely at a piece of thread, it's little teeny tiny threads all twisted together. And what I was finding with the polyester thread specifically was that would come unraveled even after you had quilted something. It would kind of come unraveled, and the thread would look a little loose, and it just didn't look super nice. So I stopped using those cones of thread. I know you get a good deal for them, but just for, I want my quilts to last, and I want them to look very nice for a long time. And I have found that 100% cotton works really well for that. That's what I personally like to recommend, using 100% cotton. Now, if you can't afford it, then use the polyester. Just know that the thread might, you know, start looking not as nice, you know, after a couple of washes. So that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, that's what I recommend for machine quilting. Now, if you're going to be doing hand quilting, it kind of depends on what your personal preference is with the weight that you use. I like the nice thick hand quilting stitches. Here, I will show you. I made a cover for my planner, and as you can see, I like the nice big thick stitches. So I really like that. So the thread that I used on this was the 12 weight Airfill. And this is gonna last me a long time if I do little projects like that. But I am very new to hand quilting, so I am not even gonna pretend that I know a lot about it. I do know that this 12 weight looks really beautiful. I know there's also 24 weight. I think some people use even like an 8 weight thread, or like a pearl cotton. So I have some of that. I have this pearl cotton, and this is very, very thick. I don't know if it's gonna... So this is a little bit harder to hand quilt with, just because it's so thick. It has to go through those fibers of the quilting cotton. It looks really cool, but it is a little bit more difficult to work with, that I have found with my very limited experience with hand quilting. So that's something to keep in mind. You could play around with it. I definitely recommend to play around with threads. Figure out what you like best. You might like Coats and Clark best. You might like Airfill best. You might like some other brand we've never heard of best. Some brand that you find on Amazon you found that works really well. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you you must use Coats and Clark or you must use Aerofill. I know that's kind of normal in this industry to kind of say, well, if you're not using this thread, then you're not using the best on the market. And I don't agree with that. So I have found Coats and Clark is really great. I very much like it. It's a well-known company. They've been around for a long time. And as long as you get the machine quilting 100% cotton, I think you should do well. It works really great with my Juki TL 2010Q, which is a semi-industrial machine, straight stitch only. I love this machine. And yeah, the thread works great with it. So if you have the same machine, I would recommend grab a spool of this and try it. They sell this at Joann's. They sell it at Walmart. I actually buy it at Walmart a lot of times because it's much cheaper there than at Joann's. It's like half the price. Or they also sell it on Amazon, which I will link down in the description box below for you. That's my little overview of thread. If you have more questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them. I'm very active in the comments section. I think I answer pretty much every single question that comes through because I don't want to leave you hanging, because I have been that person that has asked someone questions that they don't answer and it's like, but I need your help. So I feel that pain, so I know, and I try to answer all the questions that I can. Next, we're just gonna briefly talk about needles. I'm not gonna give a lot of advice on needles because every sewing machine is different. The needle that works for your machine might not work for mine and vice versa. So what I like to use is I just use a universal needle specifically that works well in my machine, which is a Juki TL series machine. The needles that I use are the Organ needles H8X1, and it's the 1490. So it is a universal needle. It's very sharp. They work really great, and I actually buy this big little case of them, and this is going to last me for years, probably, unless I start doing a lot more sewing. Those are the needles that I use. They work great for my machine. Now, if you are confused about what needle to use, a safe bet is to use a universal needle, and then for whatever machine that you have. So I know Singer makes a lot of different types of needles for different types of uses, but universal is a safe bet. That's what I used when I had a Singer machine that I used for quilting. I just always used universal needles. That works really well. You just need to make sure that if you have a low shank machine that you're using needles that are meant for a low shank. If you have a high shank machine, you're using longer needles. So, and you would be able to find that information probably in your sewing machine's manual or online. You can just look up the specific sewing machine you have and then what needle to use in blank, whatever sewing machine that you have, and you'd be able to find that information online. That is what I have to say about needles. Oop! Also, when should you replace your needle? Now, I am probably gonna make a lot of people not very happy with what I'm about to say, but I do not change out my needle probably as often as I should. And that's because I don't like to have to buy more needles. And honestly, I just don't think about it. I have heard many opinions on how often you should be changing out your needle, but really I don't change out my needle until I notice my stitch quality is suffering. So, or if I hear my machine is kind of hitting kind of weird, if I can hear a difference in how my machine is sewing, then I think, well, I should probably switch out my needle. Or, you know, if you poke your needle with your finger and it's not pointy anymore, it's time to switch it out. So I'm not gonna say, well, you need to switch out your needle after 10 hours of sewing, which is what some people recommend. Or after every single project, you need to switch out your needle. I don't have that opinion. That's not what I do, and my quilts and I have survived so far. It's really up to you how often you switch out your needle. If you want to switch it out every project, then you switch it out every project. If you want to wait until your needle breaks to switch it out, then I suppose you could do that. I don't recommend that, but you know, it's your life and you live it. I have broken needles before, and that is a pain to try to get, to find that little tip that breaks and always, it seems like always falls down into the bobbin case of my sewing machine. And that's just a pain. But, and if your needle does break, please make sure that you actually find those broken pieces. I know it's kind of tempting to just be like, well, it fell down in there and, oh well, that was just a small piece, I won't notice. You really want to make sure that you get that out so it doesn't wreak havoc in your machine, because that could be a real bummer if you have to take your machine in to get serviced, because then you can't sew because your machine is getting fixed, and then that costs more money. Yes, so that's what I have to say about needles. Probably not the most popular opinion, but that's okay. That's okay. Be nice in the comments if you don't agree with me, please. I just wanted to cover those two things because I know I've gotten a lot of questions about those two specifically, and so those are my opinion, my advice, whatever you want to call it. Now let's talk a little bit about fabric. I could talk about fabric for hours, but I won't because that would be a little boring probably. I have, again, probably a different opinion from a lot of people because of the types of quilts that I have made in the past. When I was making custom quilts, I made a lot of memory quilts. Memory quilts are made usually from someone, whether it's a child or a loved one that has passed away. It is made from their clothing and other items like bed sheets. I worked with a lot of crib sheets in my day when making memory quilts for a mom for their little one and things like that. So my opinion might vary a little bit because I know there's a lot of quilters that are like, oh, you must only use designer quilting cotton for your quilts or you're wasting your time. But my opinion is if you can make it work, then you can use that fabric. So you can use denim, you can use flannel, you can use quilting cotton, of course, linens, jersey. You can use stretchy fabrics. You just need to use interfacing to kind of hold it in place so it doesn't warp on you in the blocks. It's a little more tricky to work with that sort of thing. I am actually planning out right now a workshop that I'm going to teach how to make memory quilts. This is something that I am personally very passionate about, and it means a lot to me because that it is kind of, there was a chunk of my life where that's what I was making, and making memory quilts is so much more than just sewing fabric together into a quilt. And I really wanted to teach a workshop on that, so I'm going to be making that workshop here soonish, probably after this whole series, and I'll start working on the workshop. And yeah, I actually have a sign-up list for that workshop if you would be interested in signing up to be the first to know about the workshop. And you can, if you sign up for the wait list, you can get a special discount code for it. I'm not going to be charging, you know, a ridiculous amount for the workshop, but it is going to take me a long time, so I will be charging some for that. So that'll be coming in the coming months. I'm very excited about that. That was just a side note. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but anyways, I'll put a link for that wait list in the description box below. So if you are interested, go ahead and sign up. I would love to have you join the workshop. And yeah, I'll have to decide kind of how I want to teach it. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? Anyways, you can use so many different kinds of fabrics. You can shop at Hobby Lobby and Joann's, and you can use their fabric for quilts. I know a lot of people are very much against using those fabrics because maybe they're not as nice quality as a designer fabric that's made, you know, by Moda or Riley Blake or Robert Kaufman. And yes, that is true. There is no denying the fact that, you know, art gallery fabric is probably nicer than Joann's, or not probably, it is nicer than Joann's Quilter Showcase fabric. And the way that you can tell that is by how it feels. So the stiffer the fabric, the lower the thread count it is. So I use Joann's Quilter Showcase fabric for an example because that is such a stiff fabric. You can, I mean, it's just so stiff. It's like halfway between cardstock and cotton. It's very odd how stiff it is. And the colors fade significantly on that fabric quickly. I have used it in the past before I knew any better. And, you know, you don't know what you don't know, you know? But you know what? It's sold at a great price, and if that's what you can afford, then use it. You should not stop yourself from making quilts because you can't afford the designer fabric. Now, I will say, the designer fabric goes on sale. And if you keep an eye on, like Missouri Star, they have daily deals every day. They have fabric on sale and at a significant discount. You know, some stuff is up to like 80% off. They have a clearance section on their website where they have yardage for sale, pre-cuts for sale, where you can get cheaper. So I know a lot of people see quilting equals expensive, and that is true to a point. You know, it can be expensive, but I personally am extremely frugal, like I've talked about, and I don't pay full price for fabric, ever. Unless I really need it for a project that's like due and I have to get it done, then okay, I'll splurge and pay full price for a yard or two or something. I keep an eye on sales. I keep an eye on the clearance section. Fat Quarter Shop is another website that is, it's similar to Missouri Star where they sell like everything quilting that you could need or want. Their sale section is very good. They have lots of fabrics for like half the price of full yardage. So you could get a yard of fabric for like $6, which really isn't that about how much you would pay at Joann's when their fabric is on sale. And I have noticed that Joann's is starting to raise their prices. So really, comparatively, the sale prices are similar. You just gotta watch for the sales. You just gotta, you know, kind of be keeping an eye open for when things go on sale. I feel so strongly about that because I thought for the longest time that, you know, I just wasn't going to be able to afford the designer fabric because it was so expensive. If you're making a quilt and each yard costs $12 to $15, you're gonna be spending, I don't know, $200 just on fabric, and that's a lot of money to be throwing into something. You know, not everybody has $200 just laying around to spend on a quilt that they want to make. And that's just the quilt top. And the backing is another $50, $75. And then you have to buy the batting, which is another $30, $40. So, you know, quilting, yes, it can be expensive, but if you keep an eye on those sales, then, you know, it's not as traumatizing to your bank account. So I never pay full price for fabric. I never pay full price for batting. I make a lot of quilts. So I buy my batting by the roll. It's like a giant roll of queen size batting. And I usually buy that either from Joann's or Amazon, whichever one has it on sale at the time when I need to buy it. And a lot of times that roll is like 50% off or 60% off. So I get it like way cheaper than it would be. It comes out to like, a lot of times it's like $5 or $6 a yard for batting, which is really good for queen size batting. So 90 inches wide, I do believe. So yeah, you just got to be creative with how you buy your materials. And yeah, that's what I like to do. I do that with thread. I do that with tools. I don't pay full price for tools. You just got to keep an eye out for those sales. And I know I keep on mentioning it, but Missouri Star Quilt Company is probably the one that has the best sales and the best prices on things if you're wanting to go that route. So I would highly recommend them. And plus, if you use my link, you get an additional 15% off. the already discounted prices. It's a win-win, I think. And yeah, so with fabric, you can use what you have. And I think there's a lot of pressure. I don't know if this is for everyone or if this is more for those of us who are really kind of active on social media in the quilting community. I am on Instagram. I don't know how many of you go on Instagram really, but there is a large quilting community on Instagram. Oh, how do I want to word this? Because I don't want to be negative towards the other quilters, but as a quilting community as a whole, there's kind of this pressure to of consumerism, basically. And it's to buy that next fabric collection that the designer made, or to get the beautiful fat quarter bundles and just have them sitting on your shelf. Just have them there. You don't have to use it, but you need you know, all of this fabric to decorate your shelves and everything. And I have fallen to that, obviously. You see the fabric behind me? But all of this was on sale. None of this I paid full price for. But it's kind of, you know, you feel like you need to have those pre-cuts that decorate your shelves and, you know, all of this yardage, but then we don't use it, you know. So I'm really going to try to do that more, you know, work with what I have, you know, design things specifically where I can use fabric that I already have, because I have beautiful fabric in my stash. Why am I not using it, right? So that's something that I think a lot of people do not talk about, because we're so pulled to just keep buying more fabric. You know, if you need the fabric, buy the fabric. Or if you want the fabric, go ahead and buy the fabric. But I just want to say you don't have to buy it. You know, you don't have to feel like you need to buy that stuff. You can use the stuff that's in your stash, and that's okay. Hopefully that made sense and I wasn't just talking in circles or anything. That's kind of just what I wanted to talk to you about today. It's just a very basic, you know, thread, needles, fabric. Those are the things that you use. And then starting next week, we are going to be doing some deep dives into all kinds of stuff. So I am super excited for this series. I'm going to be answering so many questions that I got in those, like the community tab where I asked, you know, what do you want to learn? What do you want to know about? And I'm very excited to teach you guys what I have learned, what I know, and, you know, to quote Barbara Streisand in Yentl, the more I learn, the more I realize, the less I know. You know, and that is the beauty of so many things in life, right? The more you learn about something, the more you realize, I didn't know as much about this as I thought I knew. And yeah, I'm just very excited to go along this little journey with you guys. As I said, we are going to be making a quilt throughout this series. Go ahead and get your quilt projects ready if you want to quilt with me. The quilt that I'm going to be making is actually a quilt pattern that I have designed, and I am going to be making the sample for it. So I need to test my quilt pattern and make sure everything makes sense in there. And as I am going through that, we will be doing the series, and then by the end of the series, I will have that quilt pattern available for you to purchase. And I'm very excited about it. It's really cute. It's a super cute quilt pattern. I'm very, very excited about it. And it's beginner friendly, but it looks really cool. It's very cute. It's very cozy looking, and very excited to show you guys it. I'll probably show it to you next week. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. Click subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. I would love to have you join my little community here. We are getting close to 10,000 subscribers, which I am like mind blown at how many people have subscribed to my channel. It's really encouraging and just eye-opening that so many people view quilting the way that I do. and they want to hear what I have to say about it. And that's very humbling and exciting, and I am very excited to continue this series with you. So yeah, if you would like to, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. That would be awesome. That would help me a lot if you just gave the video a thumbs up. Leave any comments in the comments below. Ask any questions you want to. I will meet you back here next week for National Quilting Month. I'm so excited, and I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye. Where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. Um